Everyone thinks millionaires have some secret strategy, some hidden shortcut, or some lucky moment that changed everything. But when I actually sat down with people who built real wealth, I heard answers that were the complete opposite of what the internet tells you. Some of their answers were so brutally honest, so uncomfortable, and so different from what you've been taught, that it completely changed how I look at money forever. And if you don't hear this today, you might spend the next 10 years doing all the wrong things. So let me show you what they told me, because nobody else is willing to say it out loud. When I first started interviewing millionaires, I thought I already knew the script. I thought they'd say exactly what everyone says online: work hard, stay consistent, save money, invest smart. But the moment I sat with actual people who built real wealth, I realized how wrong I was. Not wrong in the sense that those things don't matter, wrong in the sense that the things we're told are only the surface-level answers, the socially acceptable answers. The real answers, the ones that actually make people rich, are the ones nobody talks about because they sound too raw, too direct, too uncomfortable for most people to handle. And that's exactly why I'm sharing them with you. Because if you don't hear this now, you'll keep doing what everyone else does, and end up where everyone else ends up. The first millionaire I talked to told me something I'll never forget. He said, most people are too soft to get rich, not too stupid. Not too uneducated, not too unlucky, too soft. He said people quit the moment they hit discomfort, and that's why they never see the payoffs that only come after extreme consistency. He told me he worked for 4 straight years without taking a single day off, not because he was superhuman, but because he knew most people wouldn't do it. He didn't win because he was special. He won because everyone else quit early. And that was the first pattern I noticed. Millionaires don't win because they have more talent. They win because they can endure more boredom, more repetition, and more rejection without making it emotional. Another millionaire shocked me with this. You don't get rich by doing more, you get rich by doing fewer things for a longer time. And that hit me hard. Most broke people bounce from one thing to the next. They try Amazon for 3 months, drop it. They try real estate for 2 months, drop it. They try content creation for 6 weeks, drop it. They're not failing because their ideas suck. They're failing because they never stay long enough for anything to compound. Millionaires don't chase opportunities. They build machines, one product, one business, one model, over and over until the repetition produces inevitability. And this was a wake-up call. Your problem isn't that you don't know what to do. Your problem is you keep starting over. Then one of them said something that honestly sounded rude at first. He said, nobody cares how hard you work, they only care about the value you create. And he explained that the reason most people stay broke is because they think hard work automatically entitles them to success. He said, you can work hard digging holes, that doesn't make the holes valuable. Millionaires obsess over value. What problem do I solve? How painful is it for the customer? How fast can I solve it? And how much is that solution worth? They don't ask, how do I make money? They ask, how do I make someone else's life better? Because money always follows value. If you want to get rich, stop chasing money and start chasing problems. Another one told me something even more uncomfortable. He said, the moment I stopped trying to look rich, I started getting rich. He said he drove a cheap car, lived in a small apartment, wore the same clothes. Meanwhile, everyone around him was financing everything to look successful. And that's when it clicked. Most people are broke because they want the appearance of wealth more than the process of wealth. Millionaires delay gratification aggressively. They hold cash, they invest, they reinvest. They let their money build the foundation before they spend it. And he said something that stuck with me. You can't buy rich. You have to build rich. One of the most shocking things I heard came from a self-made millionaire who owned multiple service businesses. He told me, I became rich the day I stopped trying to do everything myself. He said broke people cling to tasks because they want to save money. Rich people delegate tasks because they want to save time, and eventually they buy back so much time that they can think. He said the difference between rich and poor is that poor people spend their time to save money, while rich people spend money to save time. Because time compounds in a way money never can. You can multiply money, but you can't multiply yourself. And the moment he hired people smarter than him in specific tasks, he 10x'd his business, not because he worked more, because he worked only on the things nobody else could do. Then I asked them what they believed about money that most people would disagree with. And this is where the answers got intense. One said, money is a game, the rules are simple, but most people refuse to learn the rules. He explained that wealthy people know exactly how money moves, how markets behave, how businesses scale, how taxes work. They study money the way athletes study their sport. Meanwhile, most people avoid learning about money because it feels boring or intimidating. But when you avoid learning something important, you pay for it with your life. Millionaires don't hope money works out for them, they engineer it. And when you treat money like a game instead of a mystery, you stop fearing it and start controlling it. Another said something even more surprising. I didn't get rich because I loved business. I got rich because I wanted freedom. He said passion is overrated. He wasn't passionate about cleaning services or landscaping or e-commerce or construction. He was passionate about not being broke, and that forced him to get good at business. He said passion comes after competence, not before. Most people think they need to love what they do. He said you need to love the results enough to keep going until you become good enough to enjoy the process. Millionaires don't wait for inspiration, they create it by winning. One of the biggest surprises came from a quiet, introverted millionaire who told me, I became rich because I didn't follow my emotions. He explained that most people make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. They feel tired, so they don't work. They feel scared, so they don't invest. They feel overwhelmed, so they procrastinate. He said emotions are real but not reliable. You can feel scared and still make the right decision. You can feel tired and still produce. You can feel overwhelmed and still take the next step. Millionaires treat emotions like weather, temporary. They don't let them decide the direction of their life. He said, I wasn't more motivated than anyone else. I was just more committed. Another millionaire told me this. Every rich person I know has a moment where they bet on themselves when everyone else doubted them. He said getting rich requires a phase where you look delusional. You work hard with no proof you'll get results. You invest money you can't guarantee will return. You commit to a path without any applause, and he said the moment you seek approval, you lose, because approval means you're doing what everyone else finds acceptable. And if you do what everyone else does, you'll get what everyone else has. Millionaires embrace being misunderstood for a while. They're okay looking weird, obsessive, intense, because that's the price you pay upfront before the reward comes later. I asked one of them what the turning point in his life was, and his answer blew me away. He said, the day I realized nobody was coming to save me. He said most people secretly hope for a lucky break, a perfect mentor, a big opportunity. But the moment he understood that his life was entirely his responsibility, he stopped waiting and started building. He said taking full responsibility feels heavy at first, but later it becomes the most freeing thing in your life. Because if you cause the problem, you can create the solution. Millionaires aren't victims of circumstance, they're architects of outcome. Then I talked to a millionaire who had gone bankrupt early in his career. I asked him what changed after that failure, and he said, I stopped treating mistakes like verdicts and started treating them like data. He said most people fear making mistakes, so they move slowly or not at all. But rich people make mistakes fast, learn faster, and adjust even faster. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the ingredient. He said every time he failed, the only question he asked was, what do I need to do differently next time? And no shame, no guilt, just data. And this mindset made him unstoppable. Another millionaire told me something that felt almost offensive. He said, getting rich is boring. And he meant it as a compliment. He said the process isn't glamorous. It's the same actions repeated, outreach, sales, improving the product, reinvesting, building systems, training teams over and over. He said people expect excitement, but excitement is what keeps people broke. They want new, they want different, they want fast, but the money comes from repetition, boring scales, boring compounds, boring wins. One of them said, if your environment doesn't match your goals, you'll never get rich. He explained that he changed his entire social circle long before he made his first million. He said you cannot beat the average of your environment. If everyone around you thinks $5K a month is a lot, you'll never push beyond it. If everyone complains, you'll complain too. If everyone is scared to take risks, you'll stay scared too. Millionaires curate their environment. They choose people who think bigger, act bigger, and demand more from themselves. And eventually, you rise to the standards around you. Then one millionaire gave me the most practical advice I heard. He said, your first $100K comes from skill. Your first $1M comes from systems. He said most people try to hustle their way to $1 million, but hustle only gets you so far. Hustle creates income, systems create wealth, and if you want wealth, you must graduate from being a worker to being a builder. build a team, build processes, build automation, build something that makes money even on the days you don't show up. That's the difference between high income and high wealth. One of the last interviews ended with something incredibly profound. He said, "I didn't build a business, I built a new identity." He said wealth is an identity shift long before it's a bank balance. You stop acting like someone waiting for permission. You stop acting like someone who avoids responsibility. You stop acting like someone who needs motivation to move. You become the kind of person who executes automatically, who thinks in long-term horizons, who values discipline over feeling good, who values growth over comfort. He said when your identity changes, your behavior changes, and when your behavior changes, your results are inevitable. The biggest shock of all was this: every millionaire I talked to told me they weren't special, not one. They said the only difference between them and everyone else is that they stopped negotiating with their goals. They decided they'd rather be uncomfortable now than regretful later. They decided they'd rather be disciplined than entertained. They decided they'd rather be uncommon than liked. And once they made those decisions, the rest became math. Show up every day, learn every week, improve every month, compound every year, and eventually the gap becomes massive. So when people ask me what shocked me the most about millionaires, here's the truth. It wasn't their habits, their routines, their strategies. Those are easy to copy. What shocked me was their mindset, their willingness to do what others won't, their ability to delay gratification, their obsession with value, their refusal to quit, their ability to work without applause, their commitment to self-responsibility, their lack of emotional decision-making, their patience with the process, their intolerance of low standards, their focus on solving painful problems, their belief that wealth is built, not stumbled upon. And here's the kicker: none of these qualities are genetic, none of them are luck, none of them require a degree, connections, or a perfect childhood. Every single one of these traits is a choice, and that means anyone, including you, can make them. But most won't. Most will hear this and go back to their old life because it's familiar. A few will hear this and start changing immediately. And those few will eventually become the millionaires the next generation interviews. If you take anything from everything I learned, take this. Getting rich is not complicated. It's just uncomfortable, and that's why so few people make it. Millionaires aren't made by intelligence. They're made by endurance, by discipline, by consistency, by learning, by building, by refusing to quit. The path isn't easy, but it is simple. And if you stay on that path long enough, one day someone will ask you how you got rich, and your answers will shock them too.